right, it is 9:01, so we'll go ahead and get started this morning. Thank you for joining me again. Today is the first GT Tuesday for this month, and got a few things on the agenda. So today, going to kind of talk a little bit about the Texas Performance Standards Project, but really looking at the performance standards side of that and not the project side. So we're going to look more at the rubric and the assessment. And then looking at the Gifted and Talented Interdisciplinary Studies Seminar Standards. And as I said, looking at the standards, probably will not get a chance to talk about the college and career readiness standards. And then we'll have some time for district happenings and shout outs, and then also some of our resources that are available. As you can see from our last meeting in January to today, we have a trend downward with our COVID results, but they're still high, but they are trending back down. So hopefully we will continue with this trend. I hope those who are eligible have received or are at least registered to receive their vaccination, or if that's something that you do, consider it. And then those who are still waiting, I hope that you are taking care, that you're following safety procedures as we go out. So let's talk about our wellness check, how people are doing out there. Anyone, hopefully everyone is well, everyone should be either back in school or in some fashion of a hybrid model. As you've been watching the news, it's really a push and drive that we all be back on campus or as close to being on campus. And then there are districts that are doing a wrapping up. They're processing to find students to get them back, and then also reconsidering calendars. And so hopefully you and your GT services have not totally been pushed to the side as we go forward. But I just watching the chat. All right, and so as you know, I'm not going to go intense on this, but our COVID guidance, those things are still there. They're still building. There are still pieces being populated. The latest update I want to say is probably been under, well, instructional continuity is continuously updating because as they do things with Texas Home Learning, they'll put things out there, but also on the main page of that section, there's going to be new guidance. They update the attendance guidance. So look at that and how those things are moving as we go forward. So for those who need the registration information or to share with others, here it is on the slide. I want to say thank you for registering for these early. I tried it a little bit different so that everyone wouldn't have to hunt down for a registration code or a link. So it's all one time move through the process. So glad to be here. Yay. All right. Celeste has been doing GT since August. I'm glad. Yeah, it's been a struggle. I know for some of you, and then some, it's really been an opportunity to shine. So also we have our GT guidance out on the website. We'll be considering some new guidance coming up probably for the end of the year and then for the summer. So as we move forward in this process. If you do, I will be having a listserv go out pretty soon. So if you have not signed up for our listserv, please sign up. And then also there are other for advanced academics or to the administrator address so you can be in the know of what other pieces of information or program services are out there. So as you know, as we all know, as our state definition, but today we're going to look at really performs that or shows the potential. How do we look at that? How do we make sure that our students are performing at that remarkably high level of accomplishment? And then what does that, how is that exhibited through our program services and really looking at that performance measure of our students? What are we doing? How we're looking at that? What are we ensuring that especially in this day and age where more of our programs are going into the regular classroom, um, and looking at how those services are being handled. What are we doing? And how are students demonstrating those skills in that self-directed learning, thinking, research, and communication? Because as we're doing research to talk about student engagement and how to keep them engaged, some of that is, really looking at how can they be their directors of their own learning? What can they do to kind of want to debrief from the Zoom world, because they're on there 8 hours like we are, uh, but it's really looking at how can we calm them down, calm them out, but really bring back that creativity into their world, bring back that opportunity to learn and to enjoy the things they are interested in beyond, and then have that opportunity to communicate that with someone. A lot of our kids and a lot of us are missing those pieces as we're in that. So as we know, and part of our continuum of learning, we're looking at those development of advanced products and performances. And this is where our kids thrive, is those development areas. How do we put out our imagination, our creativity, our originality into these systems? And then as we look at that, what are they doing? How are they becoming, and then how are they being evaluated in that regular classroom? And so as I have mentioned before, we have our mentor studies, our independent studies course, which is an elective course, and you see the rubric here, the information here. And so it is based on the Texas Performance Standards Project, but there are essential knowledge and skills, and I do not think we've ever really gone into the essential knowledge and skills of this part. And I do apologize for the small text, but if you, I'm gonna go back one. If you could pull that PDF, these are just the standards from that from the course. And as you look at the course, I'm trying to, do I have it? Still is up as a PDF. Just not. So as you look at that and you look at the pieces of it, and you consider research, we're looking at how are they identifying those stuff, those products. And so the goal of my conversation today with the essential knowledge and skills under research and all of those different components is really not to say, how can we add in this course into our course load, but really, how can we add in these standards into the regular curriculum? How can we get all of these programs, these services into our regular classes, into our regular programs? And so that those teachers, when they're looking to build up their coursework for or differentiate their instruction, or we're looking at how can we add in the GT component, these are standards they can reach out to. If you remember, any GT standard or any education approved standard within the state is accessible to be taught. So adding these into our coursework in that regular classroom, in that capstone, helps build into, you're building in your GT standards into the regular program services. So these are the research standards, and they're very straightforward, asking those questions, and they're backed up on to the college and career standards actually also. So we did look at those as we built these out. And so then there's the presentation piece of this also. So they're looking at how do they present their independent research. They're working on a mentor, the processes and the development of a portfolio or their product. Those different pieces also comes into play. So when you're looking at, if you're doing your capstone in AP, pulling in these pieces of that language will help your students as they go forward into looking at meeting some of our standards for GT. So just kind of giving you some more ideas, some more thoughts of what you can incorporate into the process, into the program to assist with your just building out your program of services, especially knowing, in our smaller school districts who do not have as many opportunities or options, or if you have those kids in the regular classroom, and or as we're going back to the hybrid, and there's like, we're good, because I got the email, we're getting rid of all our advanced courses. How do you build in services into the regular process, into the regular core curriculum? So looking at, let's add these skills in. It's not, they're doing it, but we're just adding in an essential knowledge and skill as we go forward. And then the next one is product design. Really looking at what are they doing in that in their products. Is it real world application? Those are things that are important to us and our students. What is that process that they're coming to their mental drawings of this? What are they doing? How do they plan to put that information out? We've had all of a lot of different building and skills as we go forward. Are there standards for other levels too? Stacy, break that down for me. So these standards, if you have to remember, these standards as an elective course, it can be used in any grade level. So you might want, it might be, your evaluation may be different at a grade level, but these standards, even though they were written for 9-12, you can use them K-12. So some of them might not, I'm just thinking of our K program and what that real world application and uses of the product, but they might have, where a kindergarten might not have a real world application, but they might have a good use of the product. And so thinking of it that way. So some pieces, just depending, because I can see a kindergartner doing that, create representations as drawings, illustrations, or models, because they're doing that as a kindergarten, because that is something that you could assess as we go forward. And then also when you think about how we've always talked, what we're talking about, looking at that continuum of services, what does this look like as we look at our K-12 programs of services? What does it look like for a kindergartner? What does it look like for a third grader compared to a sixth grader, ninth grader, or a 12th grader going out? So looking at those skills as where do we land on that continuum? And then the next one is professional behavior. So as we know, we're going through this, and then a lot of these skills will help our students also demonstrate their mastery for speech communication, but also building their professional level so where they're ready to talk to someone else. Ready to talk about their program, their process, whatever their development, and then also building their own skills for college. And so looking at their written communication, their written documentation, how did they do it? Talking about attire in the different settings, because as we know, professional settings change and the professional dress changes depending on what field of area you're working in. So having them recognize that and go into that. And then also looking at this, some of these do fall into other curriculum pieces that will also support it. And then we have evaluation. How are they evaluating their own performance? Having that moment to really think about what are they doing? How well are they doing? How are they progressing? And part of that might be having that conversation with a teacher or a mentor, and really building out those conversations, those pieces about their presentations, about their work as they go forth. Could you offer this as a summer course? I do not see any way it could be possible. It might be a conversation at your local district on how you want to put that out, but it could be a summer course. Question would be, how would you get the elective credit for it during a summer session? But if you can do Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 in the summer, I do not see why you can't do an innovative course during the summer. So that's taken it to your school board for approval to use it, and have at it, I will say. And tell us about it, because someone else might want to replicate your process. And then finally, communication. Having those spoken words, that communication level, how do they talk about their product, their work, and the process they went through to get to that point. You've seen our videos, they're all out there available that are using the, they've done their presentations. You've seen the different levels of skill and the different level of knowledge. And you've seen where from, as everyone loves our earthworm boy, to our students at the high school level who are talking about glandular cancer, immigration. So you have those different levels and you see where our students go into it. So how are we building those skills? Love earthworm boy, yes. So I'm looking at the chat. All right, so what's building this out to, Stacy Parker is building out a set of district standards based on these standards and the English language arts for their middle school GT course. All right, and their GT third grade. Make sure I'm sticking with the chat. Could use these for your advisory time, depending on where you're at. Okay. All right. Looking at those, that's the reason why we're looking at different pieces, because as we go forward and we talked about and getting into the TPSP is, a lot of people use the task, but there is another part. A lot of people know about the course, but as you know, any course, as I stated earlier within the state, you can pull those TEKS to use in your classrooms. So really think about opening those opportunities to go broader, to go deeper into certain areas to support the work that you're doing. Okay, so Stacy's looking at for advice and guidance on how to showcase TPSP products and presentations virtually. So we can get into that one also, Stacy. So once again, really thinking about what are those opportunities that allow students to pursue their areas of interest in selected disciplines and through guided or independent research. As my work with the Texas Home Learning and looking at those curriculums and looking at those different pieces from the vendors, a lot of them have areas, have questions, have little projects, or have little research that they're built out for all of the students. And it's been a real struggle for them to understand and to build in the level of depth, the complexity, the level of the next step. What does it look like for a gifted and talented student or an advanced learner? How do you build in those next levels of for them? Because a lot of them, they work on the struggling, but what about the other side? And so I've been really pushing for the other side and really working on, let's get this to the next level. So as you know, TPSP is one option that you can use for your for products and performances. But then there's also something, you can do something that's within your district. I know when I was in the district, we actually did TPSP, but we also had training on professional PBL, and I can't even come up with it. Project-based learning. Thank you very much. It's been a moment since, it's been like 12 years now. Been in the classroom. So thinking about that, as you look at those products and those performances, what do we look like? What are we looking for in our own curriculum as we go forth? So as you know, and I'm going into the TPSP, and we're not going to look at the task. We're going to look at the rubric side of it today. And
how can we meet the needs of gifted and talented students in Texas? The Texas Performance Standards Project is a resource for providing differentiated instruction to gifted and talented students. The TPSP provides a coherent package of standards, curriculum, and assessments for use in GT programs from kindergarten through high school. The projects, or tasks, are based on the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, and focus on the foundation content areas with interdisciplinary connections. The process includes guided instruction and opportunities for independent research. Students who participate in the TPSP are able to explore an area of interest or passion and are stretched to discover what they are capable of doing academically through the creation of innovative products and performances. Teachers who participate in the TPSP have the opportunity to work with students in a meaningful, creative, and open-ended way. Districts who participate in the TPSP can improve GT services in areas including identification, professional development, curriculum and instruction, and program assessment. To some, the glass is half empty. To others, it's half full. The TPSP takes the lid off of student potential in the classroom and beyond. For more information, visit www.texaspsp.org.
All right. That is the awareness session.
Texas educators have a powerful tool to support the learning of gifted and talented students. The Texas Performance Standards Project provides a coherent package of standards, curriculum, and assessments for use in GT programs from kindergarten through high school. Students develop innovative products and performances through content-rich tasks that consider 3 areas of academic growth: research, product, and communication. An accompanying set of rubrics support teachers in guiding GT students to be self-directed learners and to communicate their creativity, thinking processes, and individuality. The TPSP assessment rubrics build on age-appropriate language and expectations to capture the critical attributes of learning that students should achieve by the end of their K-12 education experience. These rubrics focus on academic growth while affording students opportunities to develop high-quality work, culminating in a product or performance at a professional level by the end of high school. As they progress across grade levels and experience, students move from novice to expert and on to innovators and originators. With over a decade of implementation and state education goals clearly in mind, the Texas Performance Standards Project provides an enhanced academic opportunity for not only gifted and talented students, but for all of our students. Look for these valuable resources and more at texaspsp.org.
All right. So the first video was just the awareness video of TPSP. The second one was the rubric video. Both of these videos are available on the Gateway, Texas Gateway. So take a time to opportunity if you need to use those for any process, any meeting. Feel free to use those. They are there for you. So as it was mentioned in the video, we're going to look at those dimensions, those different pieces of the scoring guide of how do you look at a student's work, looking at content and their knowledge skills, how do they analyze those pieces, what perspectives did they come from, what was their level of research, how deep did they go into it, how do they communicate that back out, and then the presentation of learning. So this is our K-8 dimension. So these are the skills and strategies we're looking at as a student works for. And now these are the high school dimensions from 9 through 12. And as you, if you've been at this for a while, you know, this used to be our exit level program, but came in, kind of changed it back to 9 through 12 because we have so many students doing this at a different levels and more doing it in 9th and 10th grade compared to 11 and 12 as they're branching out into some of those other options or their work programs. So when you look at these, we do add on a couple of more to this where we're looking at their professional quality, their innovation and application of their research, and then those ethics and unanswered questions. And if you notice, there's a lot of terms here that we use elsewhere also. Their methodology as they go into this and their use of resources, and then going back to the relevance and significance. How do this build into our world? So as you're looking at your high schoolers, so it's built up to a deeper level of what are they thinking? What is this real world? And as we're talking about a professional product, or what are we doing to help them build their portfolio for a college presentation, for a college work, or to see this is where I want to go as we go into that. So all of them are still based on our scope, depth, and complexity. So when you add in those dimensions reflect back the depth and complexity framework. So those are the details, the big ideas as you go into looking at those dimensions, and as we move forward and looking at those specific discipline areas within the scoring dimension. Okay. And so as we look at this, we're looking at specific expectations that are in our areas. And so when you look at the rubrics, and I just started with the middle, the intermediate is linked on the slide. But as you know, we have a rubric for every grade band, and the grade bands are primary, intermediate, middle school, and high school. And so this is for the research plan. And so with the research plan, we're really looking at how are they developing their questions. What research methodology did they use? I typically, I know a lot of people do IM or a double IM. Some do stay strictly with scientific method. Then you got the big six. You have the other questioning skills out there. So really looking at how are you getting them to answer the question and thinking about the questions they're looking at. Then their sources of information. Really going into what data are they collecting, how this information is relevant or factual, and then how do they interpret it, that their information with the data that they collected and putting it out there, and then are they seeing it from one-sided, because our kids can be very opinionated, or are they showing all of those perspectives and looking at those pieces. So those are the research plan and that conversation and the scoring of their work. And then for your high schoolers, we're adding on that ethics and unanswered questions section of it, really looking at going beyond, going deeper into it, and adding on that level of complexity for them, where really looking at, a lot of them are really at that point of looking at the moral issue in our worlds, or just simple why questions that could dig a little bit deeper. And so as we go into the second part of our rubric, that is looking at the presentation of learning and looking at the product and the communication. And so all of them will have the organization, the depth of understanding, how does it impact, what is that delivery, and then vocabulary of the disciplinarian. Are they using it correctly? Are they putting it out there in the correct jargon of the field that they're studying? So really looking at those pieces and how are they how are they coming either to the judging table? How are they coming to that table to say, this is my work, this is what I've learned, and this is how it can impact the world? How are they coming out with that language and really looking at it in their process? And so that leads to the proficiency levels. And this is how we're scoring our students. So you're really looking at a novice. And so this, what you see on screen, is going to be our K-8 program services of our rubrics. So it's going to be the primary, the intermediate, and the middle school. So you'll have your novice. So basically, they're just learning the skills. They're still trying to build it, put it out there. Then you have your apprentice, which is they've got some skills, but they're still working on it. And then you got your practitioner, they built it, they're working, they're building, they're working, they're building. And then finally, our expert. Our expert should be at the professional level. They've really gotten it to that degree where it is polished, it is clean. And that's where our goal is. And if you remember, that goes back to our state goal of they are able to work this process to perform at the high quality level. Now, at high school, when you look at the proficiency levels, it does go away. So you only have three proficiency levels that we're looking at: the novice, the practitioner, and the expert. So I've talked a lot this morning. So at this time, I would like to throw it out to you in the out there. If anyone who's been doing TPSP or using just the rubrics or looking for those opportunities, and I'm gonna watch the chat. If you want to talk about what you're doing, you can come off mute and feel free to share.
I will share. It's this Zoom is very timely. I've just been meeting with my teachers. I'm a GT Academy specialist at a 5th and 6th grade GT Academy school within a school. And so we devote the entire year to TPSP, first semester research paper, second semester product development. And we are in, every year we tweak our rubrics. So I've just been meeting with teachers because our products are different this year because they have to be virtual. And then I was just in the chat, talking about a virtual showcase. So looking for ideas on how to showcase 350 projects virtually, looking to learn on that. So we're in the process kind of recreating this year because of all the virtual.
Okay. All right. Very good. Any suggestions for Stacy?
Good morning. I have a suggestion. This is Cecily Health from Houston ISD. We did our virtual expo last year in collaboration with Renzulli Learning Platform. And so they have an option for students to upload their videos, and it's kind of behind their platform raw. And we work with campuses to make sure that the kids have the media approval on file, so they're allowed to, their image is allowed to be posted. And then one of our specialists on our team worked with the campuses on how the students upload the videos and et cetera. And so that's what we use. I can drop the Renzulli Learning information in our contact for Renzulli Learning in the chat. And I can also drop the contact information for the specialists within our department who work directly with the vendor and how they set that up. And like I said, the first time we did it was last year because of the pandemic. And it was a huge success. I think we had over 300 videos uploaded for our students. So I'll drop that information in the chat. Oh, but the one thing I do want to say is that we do have a contract with Renzulli Learning for our GT students. So I don't know if that impacted whether we could use their platform or not, but that is one thing to keep in mind, that we do have a contract, and that's one of our services for GT students, is Renzulli Learning.
Hello, I was going to share shortly what we have not gotten there yet what we're doing here in Humble for our TPSP Expo. But some of our campuses are using Renzulli Learning, so that's their option, what they're going for. But the ones that are not, we're looking at actually creating Google Classrooms for the students to post basically like an elevator pitch, kind of going through, kind of giving them a, teach them how to do the elevator pitch, what they researched, what it was, something like 60 seconds, 60 to 90 seconds max. And then, because I know this, it's hard with the privacy pieces in there, but then, we could directly invite their parents to those classrooms of, each of those campuses. We could invite the administrators by adding them. That way it's not, it kind of keeps it secure and keeps that privacy piece. But that was just kind of one idea we're throwing out there to kind of keep it condensed and bite-sized pieces, kind of looking at that, but just one idea.
Thank you, Dr. Austin.
I know some have used also, Linda said they're looking at using Vimeo, Vimeo. And then also some do use Flipgrid, and you can put some parameters on that. So those are a couple of other options that you can think about. And then someone asked, what is, got the information for Renzulli in the chat. Thank you. Someone asked about what is the earthworm voice, so give me 1 minute. And I will show, we got a moment, I will share this video.
I've been studying earthworms. Right here is the tail because it's flatter. The flatter part is the tail. Then this part right here that's pointy is the head. And then these are the segments. The segments are those little bitty lines right there. They help it move. They go back and forth, back and forth. And it also has 5 hearts. It doesn't have teeth. It only has really strong mouth muscles. The mouth muscles help it eat. And also the gizzard grinds it up. There's an earthworm right there. For some reason that soil looks way too wet. Right here is my matching game. See, this is a card that shows where everything is. There's the crop. That's how you know if it's a grown-up or if it's a kid. If it's a grown-up, it has it. If it's a kid, it doesn't. There are no male or female earthworms. They're just earthworms. And if it's a grown-up, that crop one day, it has eggs in it. In those eggs, inside the crop, one day that crop will slide off. It'll be a cocoon. Then, if that big one grow another crop. If it gets eaten, then that'll just be its only one. This is an earthworm farm. There's a worm right there eating newspaper. Earthworms eat everything but milk, meat, and cheese. And here's a book with facts about earthworms. It's called All About Earthworms. Earthworms really help the earth. I bet that their name is earthworms because they help the earth and they live in the earth. And they also enrich the soil by putting air in it. When I get older, I want to be a farmer, and I would like to have a lot of earthworms. And then when I'm done with that, I'll take the vegetables over to where I'm cooking. I also want to be a chef. And then I can use the stuff that I grew and I could cook it.
So as you can see, most of those videos are, I would say, probably around 3 minutes. Some of them may be a little bit longer, but typically there are 3-minute videos that you can share. As Amber put in the chat, all of them are at the bottom of whatever grade band that you're looking at. Now, some of them will also have student samples. Yeah, he makes you giggle. He's the, if you need a good day or little sunshine, I will say go look at that video. I think all of them are great. High schoolers are phenomenal. You see them at a different level and different perspective, and to hear their mindset on what they're researching is always a great thing. Anyone else want to share? And while we're unmuting, I think definitely for the high school, there's more than one version out there. So you'll see a few more than just the one. So we try to put a few more out there. So, all right. Anyone else want to share or something else that's going on or other questions? That will lead us to questions and answers.
So I have a question. I'm working with our advisory council to update our GT program, and we're a little behind. We're a smaller district, so in the past, teachers have been really doing their own thing to meet the needs of GT students, and campuses are serving them differently. So we're wanting to tighten that up and create a district framework where all the campuses are doing the same TPSP lessons at the same time. So if students move between campuses, it's more consistent. We're also looking at secondary. And the beginning of your presentation, Monica, you mentioned how you could incorporate those standards into regular honors, AP, and DC courses. So I'm wondering how that looks if a teacher is teaching all her gen ed students, I guess you could say, and then has some GT students in her say DC course or AP course. Could you have maybe something in the scope and sequence? So at this point, when they come to a unit, they're doing this project where they do some independent research, and that type of thing, more a PBL unit. Would that meet the needs of GT students' differentiation within those secondary courses? Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
Yeah, it makes sense. I get you. So could we add these standards in with a different level of expectation for those select kids in those regular classrooms? That could do, depending on which ones you're adding in and building it out. But then I will also say probably really considering what rubric or what scale are they looking at those students? Because we're looking as they develop that out, if they're still using the same scale as they would do for all the other students, there's no difference in what they're doing. But if they up it, then yes, there is something different. And then either and it might be just using the rubric, might be a different rubric for those students to say, this is what we're going to look at. Because I know the pushback you're going to get is, we don't want extra work. Well, you don't want extra work, but we are still expecting you to do something different for these students to get to meet their needs and provide them the services that we're asking. And we're just saying overlay this on top of what you're doing. So it's not, so really looking at it from a different perspective and helping them to see it from that perspective. It's really, you're doing it, but now you're saying, this is how we're going to look at it at a higher level for our GT students. Or if they got a few advanced, include those advanced with the GT students as they're going forward. They just have to really think of, and I think you're on the right track. I will put that as you go forward and looking at how are you building out those skills, and looking at what skills are you looking for out of your GT students.
So yes. And when we talk about this, the next question that
really.
I'm sorry?
What?
Oh, I have a slow connection. I'm sorry. The next question we usually get is, well, what about GPA? And if we have GT students held to a higher standard and that could affect their GPA. So that's normally the next question I get from secondary teachers. Because there are students who are chasing the GPA and chasing the scholarships. How do I address that?
Okay, couple of things. GPA is more of a local district decision, and as we do know, there are students who are chasing the GPA. And I guess my pushback would be, are we looking more, I'm trying to be politically correct here. Are we really looking at making it easier so a kid can get a higher grade? Are we really looking at are we building the mental mindset and the thinking capabilities of a student? Which are we really looking at? Are we really trying to teach a kid? Or are we just trying to pass a kid? And that's really where I'm going with that one. So I think that's really kind of going back to one of the mindsets of gifted education. Are we real, as we looking at that self-directed learning, that thinking and building those skills compared to I am a grade getter and moving forward. And I think that's going to be a forever, just a regular education question forever and a day until people switch mindsets.
Monica, can I add to that?
Yes.
I just think that's a really tough conversation to have with parents, but it's a really important one to have, because we need to have the conversation about making sure that the students productive struggle, and how getting the easy A for the GPA does not lead to success in college. It does not lead to success in life. It may lead to success at college entrance, but it's not going to help them be successful when they get there and when they move on. And having that conversation with parents and students about how sometimes the hard one C is better than the easy A, that's a really difficult conversation for our perfectionists and our parents with that high drive, but it's a really, really important conversation. And it's one I used to have with my kids all the time, and we're still there. So is it better to take, the basic class and make straight A's, or is it better to, struggle through organic chemistry and graduate with that 68 on your record, but you know that everybody else in the class made a 64, right? Sometimes having that productive struggle is the goal. And it's a conversation that needs to be constantly had with both students, parents, and teachers, because they get focused on the GPA for that graduation. That's all they hear about in the news and all they hear about from counselors and all of that kind of stuff, GPA and rank. But GPA and rank has nothing to do with how a student succeeds in life and in college. It's only for one moment.
Celeste, I'd agree with you. However, having a senior that's not in the top 25%, when you don't have that, they don't get scholarships. So that's what parents are looking for, is affording college. So we got to find a balance that helps those kids do that. And that's why they're pushing that GPA and rank. 90% of your scholarships for college, you have to be in that top 25 or the top 50% to 25%. And when you have a competitive GPA and that rank plays a role, that's what those kids are looking at. They're trying to figure out how to pay for college. So you're right. We've got to find a balance between those two to help them.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I have a student in college too who was in the top 50% of her college with gosh, what was her weighted GPA? I don't know. She had all APs, all AP classes, and straight A's all the way through, and she was in the top 50% of her class because she was at one of the top 5 high schools in the state, and it was very competitive. But the problem is that at the end of the day, there are multiple ways to approach it. What we have kind of this narrow vision about what you can do to get into college and how you can pay for it, and there are options out there. It's not. I think it's a larger conversation about college, and you have to kind of look through and find the other options that are available. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go to the first choice college you wanted with a free ride, and that may be the case. But do you game the system to get the free ride, or do you learn something and be able to do something once you get there? You don't have to make the decision for them, but you do need to have the conversation. That's all I'm saying.
But it's also, when you were talking about productive struggle, that's very true. And the problem really doesn't begin in high school. It begins in elementary school with these kids. So if we don't build strong programs from the ground up so that GT kids are learning how to not dread productive struggle, but work through and understand the purpose of it. We want every other kid to experience productive struggle. That's what we want. That's why we fight for these GT kids, because we want them to have the same kind of learning experiences as other kids, because we know building those skills at a young age lead them to want to take on more challenges. Otherwise, if all they experience is success, this is easy, then they get to the point when they experience their first productive struggle as a tween or a teenager, they don't have the skills they need. And so that leads to that gaming of the system, because they're going to get the grades they can, but rather than just wanting to learn for the sake of learning.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Debbie.
Yeah, that's how we approach it. It's all about personalization of learning. And from day one in kindergarten in our GT program, we really look at that. We almost set them up to have that productive struggle to build that. So when they move into our magnet program, they will face even more, but we support them. And I think sometimes, I know I'm fighting this in our honors classes and our AP classes right now, that there needs to be a system of support for GT students as well to help them work through that productive struggle instead of abandon it. And I think sometimes we, that system isn't as strong at the secondary level, and supporting students through that. And a lot of mindset is, well, you're gifted, you're a GT student, or you're an AP student, or you're an honor student. You don't need that assistance, whereas they do. And so I think it's a multi-level problem, but I really feel if we are really about personalization of learning, then we should be meeting those needs as we go.
Well, thank y'all so much. It sounds like what I'm grappling with is something that everyone else does too. It's hard to have, you want the balance of the productive struggle, but you also don't want to make it such a struggle that kids are bailing out of GT at the secondary level, you know, and trying to figure that out is, it's not easy, but we're going to get there. So I'm taking some emails off of the chat. I may contact some of you later. It's great to make these contacts. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for the question. And that is one of the reasons why I do these GT Tuesdays, because you get to hear from you might not get to hear from your counterparts often. So I'm just going to ask that you share more as we go forward, because this is a think tank. And if we ever just want a think tank time, we can always just throw a question out and let y'all talk. I know GT, we have a mindset. So I'm going back to the chat. And there was a question, I think it kind of was answered about when a parent requests their child be exited in this situation. It's really having that conversation with their parent. Once again, as Debbie was saying, and Ms. Rodriguez was saying, as we go in, having those conversations with our parents and helping them to understand the value and the perspective, and then also really highlighting and supporting your programs. And the next GT Tuesday, there's a couple of, if you're watching, if you get the tagged announcements on the bill announcements as we go forward, there are a couple of things that may change some of those parents' mindsets with distinction, levels of distinction and secondary, with a few bills that we'll see how they progress, but I will provide those, go a little deeper with those in one of our sessions so that you can be watching and have a little more conversation pieces about it, or to see how you want to support it. Because they're really dealing with curriculum and that high school level. So as we wrap up, as you know, I shared this last time, is the EL portal. So if you're looking for more information on English learners and support for those that program or programs with the dual language, LPAC and bilingual education, feel free to to visit their website. You can have a QR code there. And then finally, here is my information. If you need to reach out to me, someone was calling while we were on. Feel free to call or email. I do try to answer in a timely manner. If I don't, shoot me an email back or say you didn't answer me. So, but if there's nothing else, it is 9:56. This will be, there's a little difference in the time delay. Sorry for that on how these are posted. So once I get the video, so it might take a little longer than a couple of days, but I believe at the moment, the last 3 since November, since November. So the December Q&A and the 2 in January should be posted on the website currently for your review and your perusal. And all of the ones from last year are there. And so this one might take till next week, but it will be there and bright and early. If you need it before then, let me know and I can see if we can share it. Thank you, Glenda. All right. So I hope everyone have a great day. It is 9:57. If there's no other questions or wonderings, I'm gonna let you go. So have a good one, everyone. Thank you.